Welcome to the Innovator's Bookshelf, the podcast for the intellectually curious and those passionate about design and innovation. I'm your host, Don Wilder. Every week, we delve into a new book, exposing you to fresh perspectives that will challenge your thinking and stimulate growth. So whether you're on your commute, in the middle of a workout, or taking some well-earned downtime, prepare to immerse yourself in the wisdom within the Innovator's Bookshelf. Let's embark on this journey of learning and innovation together. Today we're delving into the world of business strategy with Jim Collins' pivotal book, Good to Great: Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't. If you've ever wondered why some companies soar to unimaginable heights while others plateau, this book offers some compelling answers. Good to Great provides an insightful examination of companies that made the leap from good to great and outperformed the market by several times. Collins and his research team identified a set of elite companies that made the leap and analyzed their practices over the span of 15 years. One of the key takeaways from Good to Great is the concept of level 5 leadership. Collins discovered that the companies which transitioned from good to great all had what he calls level 5 leaders at the helm. These leaders are described as having personal humility and professional will. They aren't flamboyant celebrity CEOs, but are rather more reserved and put their company's needs above their own. They attribute success to their team and external factors, but shoulder responsibility when things go wrong. An example here is Darwin Smith, who was the CEO of paper company Kimberly-Clark for 2 decades. Smith was a modest, reserved individual who, despite having no background in the paper industry, turned Kimberly-Clark into the leading paper-based consumer products company in the world, beating rivals like Procter & Gamble. His reserved demeanor belied an unwavering resolve to do whatever was necessary to make the company great. Another powerful concept from the book is the hedgehog concept, which is derived from the Greek parable that the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. The idea here is that companies should focus on what they can be the best at, what drives their economic engine, and what they are deeply passionate about. One more principle from the book is the concept of the flywheel and the doom loop. Great companies didn't make the leap with one fell swoop or a single defining action. Instead, they pushed with persistent effort in a consistent direction over a long period of time to get the flywheel building momentum. On the contrary, the comparison companies often jumped from one new program to another, never accumulating momentum. Collins describes this with the case of the supermarket chain Kroger. In the early 1980s, Kroger and another company, A&P, were both faced with the threat of new competition. Kroger began a decade-long process of strategic transformation, a steady pushing on the flywheel. A&P, however, jumped from one strategy to another, creating a doom loop that led to its downfall. Here are a few more examples from Good to Great: Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't, by Jim Collins. The first relates to the principle of first who, then what. Before you set your strategy or your vision, you need to get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off it. As Collins puts it, if you have the right people on the bus, the problem of how to motivate and manage people largely goes away. The right people don't need to be tightly managed or fired up. They will be self-motivated by the inner drive to produce the best results and to be part of creating something great. An example of this is the company Nucor, which became the most profitable steel company in America. Under the leadership of Ken Iverson, the company was able to cultivate a culture that drove it from good to great. They didn't start with a strategic vision. Instead, they first ensured they had the right people who were willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard. They even had a policy of not laying off employees, further emphasizing the importance of having the right people in the company. Another principle in Good to Great is the concept of a culture of discipline. When you have a company with disciplined people, you don't need bureaucracy. When you have disciplined thought, you don't need hierarchy. When you have disciplined action, you don't need excessive controls. One example of a company embodying a culture of discipline is the drugstore chain Walgreens. The company maintained a commitment to improving customer convenience and patient care even if it meant slower growth in the short term. For example, they pioneered the drive-through pharmacy. This disciplined thinking allowed Walgreens to gradually build momentum and eventually overtake other major companies in their market, like Eckerd. Finally, let's look at the concept of technology accelerators. Collins observes that good to great organizations think differently about technology and technological change. Technology is never seen as the primary solution, but as an accelerator of momentum. An example here is the company Pitney Bowes, a provider of global e-commerce and shipping solutions. During their transition from good to great, they did not rely on technology to ignite a transformation, but used it as an accelerator of their flywheel. Their commitment to developing new technology was driven by a desire to enhance their already successful business model. These principles highlight the common traits of companies that have successfully made the transition from good to great. Each of them supports the idea that greatness is not a matter of circumstance, but rather of conscious choice and discipline. It's important to realize that the journey from good to great is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but rather it happens over time, with each decision and action building on the one before. The ideas conveyed in Good to Great are still extremely relevant for today's businesses. It provides a roadmap for any organization that wants to make the leap from being merely good to truly great. It tells us that greatness is not a function of circumstance, but rather a matter of conscious choice and discipline. As we wrap up, I encourage you to reflect on the ideas we've discussed today. Do you see level 5 leadership within your own organization? What is your hedgehog concept? Are you pushing your flywheel in a consistent direction, or are you stuck in a doom loop? That's it for this episode of the Innovator's Bookshelf. I hope you found the discussion enlightening and it gave you some food for thought. Remember, greatness is not about quick fixes, but about consistent, disciplined effort over time. I'm Don Wilder, your host, and I look forward to discussing another insightful book with you next week.